Okay, let's unpack this. For so many of you listening, your gym isn't just a business, right? It's your passion, your daily grind, and maybe even your biggest asset.
Hmm.
Ever stop to think about the right way to step away when that time comes?
Mm.
In a way that really rewards all that effort.
That's exactly it. That's the core of what we're looking at today. It's not just the mechanics of selling something. It's about strategically planning your exit from something huge in your life.
Exactly. And to guide us, we're taking a deep dive into this white paper called The Exit Blueprint, Key Steps for Selling Your Gym the Right Way by jthomas.
Right?
Think of this as like a shortcut to understanding the really essential bits of selling your gym successfully. Maybe you're thinking about it now, or maybe you're just curious how these big deals work.
And understanding these principles can actually give you a real edge in how you build and run your business now, not just when you sell.
That's a great point. What's fascinating here is that the insights in this blueprint, they're not just relevant if you're planning to sell tomorrow, are they?
Not at all. They offer really valuable perspective on what actually drives business value. How to think strategically about your gym's long-term health, whatever your exit timeline looks like.
Absolutely. Now, this exit blueprint, it it really seems to cover everything.
It does. It goes from getting a clear, realistic picture of your gym's worth
Okay.
to navigating all the crucial legal stuff, the admin steps, and right through to making sure the handover is smooth and successful.
And the ultimate goal, I guess, is maximizing what you get financially, but also avoiding legal problems.
Exactly. Maximize the return, avoid the pitfalls, and make sure the transition works for everyone. Your staff, your members, the buyer, you.
Makes sense. So where does the white paper say you absolutely have to start?
The very first point it hammers home is the absolute need to define your exit goals, like with real clarity right from the beginning.
Okay, so it's not just a casual, maybe someday thought.
Yeah.
It has to be much more deliberate than that.
Right.
The paper actually poses some pretty pointed questions for you to ask yourself, doesn't it?
It does. Like, are you looking for a quick sale? Maybe speed is the priority. Or is getting the absolute maximum value the most important thing?
Okay. Or maybe selling the whole thing versus just part of it. Or finding a partner.
Precisely. And a really big one. Do you want a clean break? Or do you see yourself maybe staying involved somehow? Consulting, perhaps.
Why is getting that clear right at the start so critical?
Well, this initial clarity, it's foundational. The paper argues, pretty strongly actually, that without really understanding your own objectives, you run a much higher risk of, regretting the deal later. Or maybe undervaluing your business, which nobody wants, or even just having the whole deal fall apart. Knowing what you want acts like a compass for all the decisions that follow.
That's a really key image, having that internal compass set from the get-go.
Yeah.
So, okay, you've got that clear picture in your mind. What's the next big step in the blueprint?
The next vital stage is getting a professional business valuation done. You absolutely need an objective, accurate handle on what your gym is actually worth in the market today.
Okay, so what exactly goes into that? It's not just this sort of ballpark figure you come up with yourself, I imagine.
Not at all. A proper valuation involves a really detailed look at your financials. Usually they look back 12, maybe even up to 36 months.
Wow, okay.
Yeah, so your profit and loss statements, your balance sheets, even your tax returns. Professionals will analyze key metrics like EBITDA.
Right, earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, amortization. We hear that a lot.
Exactly. Or sometimes something called seller's discretionary earnings, SDE, which you often see with smaller owner-run businesses. Buyers really focus on EBITDA because it gives a cleaner picture of the core profitability, stripping out stuff like interest and tax variations. It helps compare gyms more easily.
Right, so they're really digging into the financial engine of the business. But it's not just about the numbers on a spreadsheet, is it? What about all the other stuff that makes a gym valuable?
Precisely. The valuation also has to look really closely at both your tangible assets, your equipment, any improvements you've made to the space.
The fit out, weights, cardio machines.
Exactly. And then your intangible assets, which honestly can be incredibly valuable.
Like what?
Well, think about the strength of your brand, its reputation in the community. Your email list, how big is it, how engaged, the loyalty of your members, and really importantly, how good are your systems, your SOPs, your processes.
Interesting. So all that hard work building a community, making things run smoothly, actually translates into dollars and cents here.
Absolutely. And here's where it gets really interesting. The white paper has this pro tip. I think this is crucial. It says work with a valuer or a broker who specializes in the gym industry.
not just any business broker.
Right. Because they understand the nuances, what drives value specifically in fitness. The paper mentions typical industry multiples, usually around 1.5 to 3 times EBITDA.
Okay, that's a useful range.
But it stresses that this range can swing quite a bit. It depends on your gym's model, like are you high volume, low price, or more boutique? Where are you located? What's the competition like? And, crucially, your performance. Are you growing?
So a gym with, say, growing membership and a strong team might get closer to that 3x multiple.
Exactly. Consistent growth, high member value, documented systems, a good management team that pushes you towards the higher end. On the flip side, maybe declining members, or if the whole place relies entirely on the owner, that might put you nearer the 1.5x end.
That really gives a solid benchmark and highlights what buyers are looking for.
Yeah.
Okay, so you have a good idea of your gym's value. What's the next practical step to make sure that value holds up when buyers start looking?
That leads straight into getting your financial house in, well, impeccable order. The paper really emphasizes this. Clean up your financial records before you even think about listing.
What kind of cleaning are we talking about? Like a financial spring clean?
Yeah, pretty much. You need to deal with any old bad debts, get rid of them, make sure your P&L statements are accurate, consistent, everything's categorized properly.
Okay.
And it's vital to check that all your current bills are paid up. Payroll taxes, rent, vendor payments, everything current.
So basically, no skeletons hiding in the financial closet. What specific things in the financials will buyers zoom in on?
They'll be looking really closely at your recurring revenue, like where does the money actually come from? They'll want breakdowns, memberships, PT, supplements, whatever.
Makes sense?
They'll also look hard at your churn rate, how many members are leaving, and your retention rate, how well do you keep them, plus things like your CAC cost to acquire a customer.
How much you spend on marketing to get one new member.
Right. And the LTV lifetime value of a member, how much revenue does one member generate over time? Basically, clean, organized books signal predictability. That's what buyers love. Health and predictability.
Predictability and stability. Definitely what you'd want if you were buying. Okay, financials are sparkling clean. What's the next key piece for getting ready to sell?
Now you need to craft your gym's selling story. And this usually comes together in a formal document called a Confidential Business Memorandum, or CBM.
A CBM, okay, sounds serious. What goes into this selling story?
Think of it as a detailed pitch deck for your business. It starts with an overview. The gym's history, its location, the demographics of your area.
Right.
Then it details your ownership structure, who does what on your staff team, a full list of services, and your pricing, key stats about your members. Are you growing? How fast?
Okay.
And critically, it includes a detailed financial summary, but with explanations for any add backs.
At the back, so are those.
There are expenses the current owner pays that a new owner might not have to, like maybe an unusually high owner's salary or personal car expenses run through the business. Adding these back shows the true earning potential for a buyer.
Ah, okay. That makes sense. What else is in the CBM?
It should also really highlight the opportunities for future growth. What could a new owner do to take it to the next level? And importantly, you need to provide a clear, honest reason for why you're selling.
So it's way more than just numbers. It's painting a picture, making a compelling case, and the confidential part is obviously key.
Absolutely paramount. This thing is full of sensitive info. It should only go to serious, qualified buyers who've signed a non-disclosure agreement, an NDA. You've got to protect that information.
Right. You definitely don't want your competitors seeing your detailed financials or growth plans.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so you've got this killer CBM ready. What other documents do you need to pull together?
There's a whole raft of legal and operational docs you need handy. Your current lease agreement, super important, and landlord contact details. A full inventory of all your equipment, any warranties still active.
Okay.
If you're a franchise or have a license agreement, you need those contracts, obviously. Copies of staff employment contracts, agreements with your key suppliers, utility bills, and definitely access details for your gym management software, your CRM system.
That sounds like a fair bit of paperwork to round up. Anything people often forget in that pile.
Yeah, the white paper has another good pro tip here. Don't forget to document your systems. Things like your standard operating procedures, SOPs for how things get done, staff training manuals, member onboarding processes.
Why is that so important?
Because it shows a buyer that the gym isn't just relying on you. It shows it can run systematically, more independently. That makes it way more attractive.
That's a really great point. A business that can run itself is definitely worth more. Now, you mentioned the lease agreement earlier. That sounds like it could be a real sticking point.
It often is. Honestly, the lease terms are one of the most Underestimated potential deal breakers in selling a gym. A bad lease can totally sink a deal.
So what specifically about the lease should sellers be really focusing on?
Several critical things. First, read it carefully. Does it even allow you to assign it to a new owner? Are there conditions? What are they?
Okay.
Second, how much time is left on the lease? If it's short, you might need to talk to your landlord now before listing about getting an extension or renewal options.
Proactive is key there.
Definitely. Ideally, you might even try to get the landlord's pre-approval for a transfer, maybe even to a specific buyer once you have one. A lease that's too short, has crazy high rent, or just flat out can't be transferred. Major red flag for buyers.
Definitely sounds like something to sort out early. Okay, paperwork's organized, lease is looking good. How do you actually find the right buyer? Where do you list it?
The white paper suggests being strategic and, initially at least, very confidential. It advises against just slapping it up on those big public business for sale websites right away.
Why the secrecy at the start?
It's mainly about protecting confidentiality. You don't want your members or your staff finding out you're selling from some random website before you've had a chance to tell them yourself, on your own terms.
Good point. Creates uncertainty.
Exactly. Instead, the paper recommends using qualified gym brokers, people who already have networks of potential buyers in the fitness world, or leveraging your own industry contacts, maybe even some private marketing to reach what they call warm leads.
People already known to be interested in fitness businesses.
Right. It's a more targeted, discreet approach first, focusing on serious players while keeping things quiet.
Okay, that makes sense. So once you do start getting interest, how do you sort the serious contenders from the tire kickers?
Yeah, you need a solid buyer screening process. You should be ready to ask for key info, like proof of funds or financing pre-approval. Can they actually afford to buy it?
Crucial.
Also, what's their background? Do they know fitness, business operations? Are they entrepreneurs? And why this gym? What's their motivation? And like we said before, getting that NDA signed before you share the detailed CBM is absolutely non-negotiable.
And serious buyers won't mind this.
Not at all. Serious buyers expect this. They'll appreciate a structured, professional approach. It shows you're serious, too.
Makes perfect sense. Qualify your leads. Okay, you've found someone who ticks all the boxes. Now comes the bit everyone thinks about, negotiating the deal. Is it all about the price tag?
Not even close. I mean, the price is obviously huge, but there are so many other critical terms to hash out.
Like what?
Like, how is the deal structured? Is it an asset sale or a stock sale? That has big tax implications for both sides.
Right.
Will there be an earnout where part of the price depends on future performance? Will you, the seller, offer any financing? What about a non-compete agreement? How long, what area does it cover?
Okay, lots to consider.
Definitely. Also, how long will the handover and training period be? Who's responsible for existing debts or obligations? All these need to be clearly negotiated and defined. The paper mentions using a letter of intent, an LOI at this stage.
What's that for?
It sort of outlines the main agreed upon terms before you dive into drafting the big final purchase agreement. It gets the key points down on paper.
So it's much more complex than just shaking hands on a price. It's the whole deal structure. And speaking of complexity, the paper really pushes bringing in advisors early. Who should be on your team?
Yeah, it strongly recommends getting your professional team involved early. You definitely need an experienced business attorney, ideally one who knows asset sales and liability stuff. You absolutely need a good accountant or CPA for tax advice and the financial side. And depending on your situation, maybe even a gym-specific business consultant. Someone who's actually sold gyms before can offer amazing insights.
Trying to do it all yourself sounds risky.
Very risky. You could lose value, miss things, expose yourself to legal problems down the road. Investing in good advice usually pays for itself many times over.
Good advice. Okay, so you've got an agreement on the main terms, maybe an LOI signed. What's next? Due diligence.
Exactly. Now comes the due diligence phase. This is where the buyer and their advisors get under the hood and check everything out. They verify all the information you've given them and look for any potential risks or problems.
What kind of stuff were they looking at during due diligence?
Oh, they'll be digging deep. Financial records, tax returns, scrutinizing that lease again, all your other contracts. They'll look at member agreements, payment processing, staff contracts, HR practices.
Compliance stuff, too.
Absolutely. Legal compliance, waivers, safety procedures, ADA accessibility, everything. The key here, the paper stresses, is being fast, transparent, and providing everything they ask for. It builds trust and keeps the deal moving.
Transparency and speed build trust. Makes sense. So due diligence goes well, no major issues pop up. You're getting close to the finish line. But there's still the handover, the transition, right?
Absolutely critical. Planning for a smooth transition is sometimes overlooked, but it's vital for the gym's future success and for making sure everyone's happy post-sale.
What does that usually involve for the seller?
Well, you'll likely need to introduce the new owner to your key staff, maybe to the members too. You'll definitely need to provide training on your systems, software, processes, and often you might agree to stick around for a bit, maybe 30, 60, 90 days in a consulting role.
To help them get settled in.
Exactly. A smooth handover protects member retention, keeps the staff morale up, and just ensures the new owner starts off on the right foot. It protects the goodwill you built.
So it's not just signing papers and vanishing. There's a responsibility there.
Yeah.
Okay, the final step, closing the deal. What actually happens to make it official?
The closing involves formally signing the final comprehensive purchase agreement, the big legal document detailing everything. You'll settle up any prorated expenses like rent or prepaid memberships.
Okay.
You'll transfer licenses, permits, the business name, maybe the EIN, depending on the sales structure. And then the big moment. The funds are usually released from an escrow account once all conditions are met.
And the money hits your account.
Pretty much. The paper really stresses making sure all liabilities, who is responsible for what debts or obligations, are crystal clear in that final agreement. No ambiguity.
Nail down every detail for a clean break. Got it. And once the ink is dry, the deal is done. The white paper also mentions thinking about what's next for the seller, doesn't it?
It does. Selling your gym, especially after pouring your heart into it, is a huge achievement. And it's important to think about your next chapter.
What do owners typically do?
Well, the paper gives a few common examples. Some jump back in and open a new gym, maybe a different concept or location. Others use their experience to consult or mentor other gym owners.
Sharing the wisdom.
Right. Or maybe if the brand is strong and the systems are solid, they might look into franchising or licensing their concept.
Interesting. So it could be the start of something new, using the capital and the experience from the sale. Okay, as we wrap up this deep dive into selling your gym the right way, what's the single biggest takeaway from this exit blueprint?
I think the main message is that selling successfully isn't luck. It really demands discipline, strategy, and thinking ahead. If you plan carefully, prepare thoroughly, and get the right expert help.
You stand a much better chance.
Exactly. A much better chance of maximizing your return, protecting your legacy, and looking after your members and staff in the process.
So if you've ever thought about the long-term future of your business, or you're just, fascinated by how these major business transitions work, hopefully this deep dive gave you some really valuable insights.
And maybe this leaves you with a final thought to chew on. Beyond just the money, what really makes for a successful exit from a business you've poured so much of yourself into? What kind of lasting impact do you hope you've left behind?